When we think about ancient superpowers, our minds almost always jump straight to Rome, right? But for centuries, there was another empire, a real heavyweight, staring them down across the Mediterranean. This is the story of a forgotten giant, and it's every bit as compelling. Today, we are diving into the world of ancient Carthage.
And let's just kick things off with a massive question. What if Rome had actually lost? I mean, really think about that for a second. It completely reframes how we see the ancient world, because for a very long time, it was a real 50-50 possibility. The entire fate of Western civilization was literally hanging in the balance of this one epic rivalry.
So who was this incredible challenger? Well, it was Carthage. Based in what we now call Tunisia, this was an empire built on a totally different philosophy. It wasn't about legions and roads, it was all about ships and trade routes. These guys were the undisputed masters of the sea, and their influence stretched all the way from Africa to Spain.
To really get Carthage, you have to start with their connection to the water. I mean, their entire identity, their power, everything, came from their incredible command of the Mediterranean Sea.
Now, Carthage didn't just spring up out of nowhere. It actually began as a colony, founded by some of the best sailors and traders in the ancient world, the Phoenicians, from the city of Tyre. And they picked the absolute perfect spot. It was a strategic choke point right in the middle of the Mediterranean that basically gave them control over all the vital shipping lanes. Talk about location, location, location. This one choice was the bedrock of their entire empire.
And man, did that location pay off. It fueled a commercial engine that was just unbelievable, generating immense wealth. We're talking silver and gold from Spain, ivory from deep in Africa, luxurious textiles, but the absolute crown jewel, the thing that made them famous? It was Tyrian purple dye. This stuff, made from sea snails, was literally worth more than its weight in gold. It became the color of royalty for centuries to come.
Okay, so all of that wealth needs a pretty sophisticated system to manage it. So what did Carthaginian society actually look like? Let's take a peek inside the political and military machine of this incredible merchant empire.
So unlike a lot of other empires at the time, Carthage wasn't ruled by some all-powerful king. It evolved into something we call an oligarchic republic. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means the real power was held by the city's richest merchant families. They were the ones making the big decisions through councils and elected officials. Basically, it was a government built by business for business.
And what's just fascinating is how incredibly similar their government looked to their biggest rival, Rome. I mean, look at this. Carthage had two chief magistrates, they called them suffetes. Rome had two consuls. Carthage had a powerful council of elders, known as the 104. Rome had the Senate. It's an amazing example of two superpowers developing these parallel systems to run their complex societies. It's almost like they were looking at each other in a mirror.
All right, let's talk about their military. Their navy? Absolutely legendary. It was the undisputed backbone of their entire empire, no question. But on land, well, that was a totally different story. Instead of a huge citizen army like the Romans had, Carthage mostly relied on hired guns, mercenaries. It was a strategic choice, right? It let their own citizens focus on making money through trade. But, as you can imagine, it also created a pretty serious vulnerability.
Yeah, this whole mercenary system was both a strength and a massive, massive weakness. And nothing shows this better than the mercenary war. So after their first big war with Rome, Carthage was broke and they couldn't pay their soldiers. And what do unpaid mercenaries do? They revolt. It plunged the empire into this horribly brutal civil war that almost tore it apart from the inside out.
And that first conflict with Rome, that was just the appetizer. It was just setting the stage for the main event. A series of wars that would define both empires and ultimately decide the fate of the entire Mediterranean world.
This wasn't just one battle. This was a 100-year struggle for survival, fought across three huge wars we now call the Punic Wars. The first was a grueling slugfest at sea for control of Sicily. The second was the one everybody knows about, the legendary invasion of Italy by Hannibal. And the third, well, that was the final tragic chapter for Carthage.
And you just can't talk about these wars without talking about one man, Hannibal Barca. This quote really gets to the heart of it. The sheer audacity of his plan in the Second Punic War to march a whole army with war elephants over the frozen Alps to attack Rome on its home turf. It was completely unthinkable, an absolutely shocking move that brought the mighty Roman Republic to its very knees.
But even with Hannibal's genius, Carthage just couldn't land the final knockout punch.
Decades later, a resurgent Rome, still terrified of its old rival, decided to end the threat once and for all. The year 146 BCE. That's the year that marks the tragic end of Carthage's story.
After a horrible 3-year siege, the Roman legions finally breached the city walls. And what came next wasn't just a conquest, it was total annihilation. The city was systematically torn down, building by building. Its people were killed or sold into slavery. Rome didn't just want to defeat Carthage, they wanted to erase it from the map and even from memory.
But can you really erase an entire civilization? Let's take a look at what managed to survive the flames, the echoes of Carthage that we can still find today.
Despite Rome's best efforts, Carthage left behind an incredible legacy. Their models for maritime trade set the standard for centuries. Their naval technology was so good that the Romans actually copied their ship designs to build their first proper fleet. And the city of Carthage itself was a marvel of urban planning, this cosmopolitan hub that blended cultures from all over the ancient world.
And that brings us to a final thought. Since Rome won and got to write the history books, we see the ancient world through their eyes. But it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What knowledge, what art, what different ways of seeing the world were lost forever when Carthage fell? How much of our world was shaped not just by Rome's victory, but by Carthage's defeat? It's a powerful reminder that history, as they say, is always written by the winners.